making his point for MVP. Hey, everybody, Nick Kypreos. Welcome to Real Kyper at noon. Doug McLean on assignment. I've got him out there in an RV somewhere doing something for us. He'll be back tomorrow. I got Alan May in the wings, a regular contributor here on the Real Kyper at noon show. Waiting on deck here. He's going to be coming in momentarily. We opened up with Brayden Point. 5 points last night. It took him all but a minute and 14 seconds to show off that amazing skill level that he has in leading Tampa Bay into a 1-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Final. Was it rest versus rust? As simple as that? Do we look at the New York Islanders and say, how can you possibly lose your identity in 20, 40, 60 minutes? That debacle last night. Can you believe that's the same team that we've watched for over a month now, giving up all those chances, all those goals? But Brayden Point, we watch him now, and we marvel at the skill level. And I know, 2 weeks ago, we started that whole Nathan MacKinnon, second best player in the world. So, okay, I'll throw it out there. Who's the third? Who's the third best player in the world right now? Under 25. So let's bring it down a little bit here. So we don't have to worry about insulting Ovechkin and Crosby and a few others. And we watched Brayden Point last night. And will he ever be regarded as one of the best? He doesn't have the power or that fourth gear of Connor McDavid or the power of Nathan MacKinnon, but he's got power and he's got quickness. But it'll never get to that level. So where do we put Brayden Point now in terms of being one of the top players in the world? Yeah, he's right up there. He proved that last night. Ask Polak. Ask him what he thought about that little shuffle step. Easy 2-on-2. I've got my gap control. No, you don't. Because he just gave you the little shimmy there that left you in your dust. And I know in my day, and I'll bring on Alan May here soon and talk about what a defenseman would have done to Brayden Point getting beat that badly. Because I would have thought maybe a good chop would have been the final piece of that little puzzle for Polak. But not in today's game. No, you just let him go. You just let him cut right to the net. And then there's Grice, who I thought did a horrible job, but maybe he was just too surprised that he was coming in, or maybe he missed his judgment on his speed, on the edge work that Point was able to do. Like that puck was almost on the goal line within 5-6 feet of his net. There's not a chance in hell a goalie should let a guy cut in like that without getting some stick on him. Either you're going to aggressively poke check the puck, or you're going to take a pretty good whack at Point's legs, ankles, something. He cannot go in there that easy. But it's 2020. There's no Bob McGill now to chop you down like an oak tree. Is there, Alan May? Let's bring in Alan May.
Well, it's a completely different game now. And
I know.
And you look at, and goaltenders are, why doesn't Grice throw a poke check? Because they're not taught to do that anymore. They're trying to keep the 5-hole shut. They're trying to keep the stick flat on the ice. So there are so many things different from this era of hockey that were in the past. So, you know what? We fault every single goalie's faulted on every goal. To me, that was a world-class player making a world-class play, and he wasn't going to be denied. And I don't think it would have mattered who was in net. It could have been Robin Leonard. It could have been Patrick Waugh, anyone from any era. I think that was going to be a goal. Brayden Point is that.
Gosh, I disagree.
And we can disagree about it, but you know what? I've seen Brayden Point do this stuff over and over again. And when you talk about what all those other players have, McDavid, MacKinnon, Crosby, well, none of them have the agility, and they can't dance the way that Brayden Point can. He's phenomenal, and probably, the best in the NHL. I see this guy play so much, and I'm always amazed at how he gets around the ice. A couple years ago when he came on the scene, I couldn't believe how good he is. The motor's always running. He's there every game. He doesn't hide in the weeds. It's easier for a smaller player to play the game now because they don't have to worry about Bob McGill's and Ben Wilson's and guys cracking sticks on the back of your neck or your numbers. chopping your arms every time you're near the net. So you can actually go to those places now without having to worry so much about the stick work that we had so much, that was so prevalent when we played, Nick. So, you know what? I just think he's a great player, and I'm not surprised when he's able to pull off those moves. He's phenomenal.
Well, I definitely agree with you in terms of the style of play now the goaltenders have, in that reverse H or whatever the hell you want to call it, and how you're forcing them to make that perfect elevated shot. If you want to beat me upstairs on a quarter of an inch, I'll give you that, but I'm just going to play the percentages and sit here. That's just not good enough against a talented guy like Point. You have to get out there and you have to get a little aggressive with your stick, Alan. And I got to think that there's some goaltenders out there in the past that would have said, if you're going to come through this tight on me, I'm going to make you pay if my defenseman doesn't make you pay. I don't understand why goaltenders are so laid back now and just want to cover a percentage of the net, opposed to maybe making you do something before you want to do it.
Well, it's because like youth hockey parents, they're helicopter parents, and now they got helicopter goalie coaches. And really the players are so overcoached and told what to do now that you're playing the percentages on all of your moves. And believe me, that's not the first time we've seen a goal like this in the playoffs that Brayden Point scored. We've seen other players do it. And it's just, the game is so overcoached. You know, when you go on those angles, you're looking for the sweet spots, and you guys are shooting around the ears now. You're not necessarily shooting in the corner to meet the bar, the crossbar in the post. You know, now you're looking at, you know, shooting at the head. Now you're trying to get a goaltender. If he does move that stick, you slide it 5-hole. And Kucherov's one of the best players in the league that just absolutely schools and dominates goaltenders. As soon as they move their stick, he does that little off-speed backhand, and goaltenders look awful. Then they take it on the chin from every analyst out there that's watching the game. So the game is coached. The goaltenders basically are all doing the same things. It's a matter of timing and who flinches last. And, you know, every once in a while you get those great athletic saves where the goaltender pushes post to post. But the game is really coached now, overcoached in the goaltending position. And what we thought was a bad goal, the goalie coach is saying, hey, you got to give them that shot because you don't want the pucks going through you. They have to go around you. So I think Greiss owned the middle of the net on that one. I just still believe that was a world-class play by a really, really good hockey player.
So I started the top of the show off in terms of mentioning McDavid and McKinnon, and now Point kind of getting in this conversation of being a top player. I don't think you could ever knock off McKinnon and Connor in that type of look, much like I think that we would look at other top players around Gretzky and Lemieux in our era. And I wonder if maybe Point would take on the role of maybe a Stevie Yzerman, where we all marveled at Stevie Yzerman's skating ability or point production, but he never really got into that best player in the world conversation. Is that where we're going to have Point now when it comes to McDavid and Crosby? Or McDavid and McKinnon?
Well, they're always going to get all the accolades, you know, the first overall draft picks. And you look at what Brayden Point brings. If you're building a Team Canada for the Olympics or the World Cup of Hockey, Brayden Point's definitely on your team. Remember, Lemieux played right wing, Gretzky played center, Dale Hawerchuk played on the wing in a lot of those series. Yzerman was blocking shots, and that's really was a time that turned their careers around to realize they had to do other things to be more well-rounded. And I look at Brayden Point, that it's a perfect comparable to say that he is a Stevie Yzerman type player. They could dance, they could skate the puck in a phone booth. They go around every single player on the ice. They go hard at all times. They do all the little things. Point's excellent in the face-off circle. He plays a great defensive game, and he plays every game as though it's his last. And I love everyday hockey players. I don't like the moody hockey players. I'm more of a Point guy than a Nikita Kucherov, who kind of hides in the weeds, is moody if you play him physical, if he doesn't get a call his way. Point just continues to drive it. Every single time that he's on the ice, he puts out an all-out effort. He's a max player every single time that he laces up, and you got to love that. That's the real leader. He is taking over that team from Steve Stamkos, and the fact that he can do it all, and he's ready to play every night. He doesn't disappear for weeks at a time, games at a time. He's just ready to play. In every game in these playoffs, Brayden Point has been on to me. Maybe not his team, but he's been there, and he's been ready to go, and he's trying to win himself a Stanley Cup. And I think right now he is definitely the odds-on favorite to me as the most valuable player in the playoffs.
without a doubt, last night got the job done. And you watch Kucherov, and we certainly marvel at his skill level, but it's almost as if Point takes him to another level too, mentally more than anything else, because we know physically he's right there. But Kucherov almost looks at Brayden Point now and goes, "Hey, if I don't jump on this train right now, I'm an idiot, because this is how good this guy can help me be."
Well, there's some players you just say you have to keep your stick on the ice at all times, so the puck's going to come to you. And Brayden Point can get the puck to Kucherov, who's got an amazing shot, who can pick his corners, pick his 5-hole, shoot pucks through goaltenders. And he'd be foolish not to get up in the play and make sure that he's ready to shoot at all times, get to the net for the deflections. And, you look at the play last night, Kucherov makes an incredible, I don't know what you want to call it, the way he tipped the puck over to Point, but he did that intentionally. Point snaps it out of the air.
Like skimming stones on the water. That's what it was like.
Exactly. And then he skates to the net and he gets a stone back and he puts it behind the goaltender Varlamov. So you look at those guys are a great tandem, but to me, it's all about how well is Point playing. If Point's not on, if he's injured, they're in trouble. To me, he's the most important player on the team with Victor Hedman. But Brayden Point, you have to believe that every single time I've seen him play, from the time he was a rookie, I've been in awe of his skill, how he can dance on the ice. The skating ability is exceptional. It reminds me a lot of Theo Fleury at times. Not quite as powerful, more agility, but those guys could just get anywhere on the ice. And they played the game with a lot of passion. And that's what you really like to see at a guy like Brayden Point. I believe your smaller players, I said it last time I was on here, your smaller players have to be your most noticeable. Is there a bias there? Yeah, because they can't get by with just coasting around. I look at Beauvillier, Barzal, Pajot. They're in it every single game. They work. And Brayden Point is in that ilk of smallish guys that really make sure that he brings out a max effort every game.
So what do we say, Alan, that it's a one-off? Much like everybody else is trying to give the Islanders the benefit of the doubt. If I'm the Islanders, I wish I could say I only got beat by one guy, and that's Brayden Point. But I got beat by many guys. And that's where we really saw a talent level from Tampa Bay that really the Islanders cannot match.
Well, you know what? I'm not ready to go there yet, because the Islanders have made a lot of teams look foolish so far in these playoffs, and they've gone out in games and stifled teams. So they learned a lot of lessons last night. About 30 years ago, you and I were involved in a game in Madison Square Gardens where we're absolutely pumped by the New York Rangers. And I think it ended up being 6-2 or 6-3, but it should have been 20-3 or 20-2, whatever it was. And we went out and won the series in 5 games. We learned a lot of lessons. We learned what we had to do. Fortunately, we had a day off between games to regroup, recalibrate, and get everyone on the same page again. What we had to do as every individual, what their role would be. And there's a lot of individuals on the New York Islanders that can be better in their game. I look at their defensemen. They were caught sleeping at different times. Their coverage points, not putting the pucks where they should have been. And I look at the fact that how many times last night did you yell at the television when the Islanders wouldn't shoot the puck when they had an open net? They kept passing through the seam. It drives me crazy, the laptop hockey. They're looking for passes through 2 and 3 sticks, and they did it continually. So they had 24 shots last night, the Islanders. 10 of them were on the power play, 14 at even strength. That's not good enough. You've got to challenge the defensemen. They're going with 7 different players, 7D back there on Tampa. You've got to kind of put them in a tough situation where to go with that, because a lot of times it's working right now to have the 7D rotation, but you've got to find a way to mess up the math for the coaching staff as to who's on the ice, when they're on the ice. But it wasn't a tough enough game for the D of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They didn't have to play below their goal line. They didn't have to scramble in front of their net. And if you don't put pucks there, and they've got a lot of big, heavy players that can get to the front of net, I think Anders Lee has to be more noticeable. So I'm not ready to say this is a 3-game series. And, like you said last night, you got to win your 4. It's hard to win those 4. And I think the Islanders will come out and play a different style. One thing I did notice out of Tampa last night is they used some of Barry Trotz's tactics from the Washington Capitals when they played Tampa a couple years ago in the conference finals. And that was 5 guys back on your own blue line. I think the Islanders have to make sure they have 5 guys above the puck. Slow down on the hitting and just make sure you're owning the middle of the ice and be opportunistic, because it does work well to get those odd man rushes off of turnovers and forced plays.
And that might be something of a mental lapse that we haven't seen out of the Islanders. My one concern, Alan, is the goaltending for the New York Islanders. Greiss goes in, doesn't get the job done. Varlamov, the disappointing thing I think for Barry Trotz is you weren't able to protect Varlamov out of game one, and he gives up 5 goals, and now you're scrambling to find a goaltender that somewhat feels decent going into game two. Islanders don't have that in game two right now.
No, one of the things I really don't like about these playoffs is the idea of platooning goalies and not knowing who your starter is. Because I think down the line, you've got to worry about where you're at today to get to where you want to be tomorrow. And they're thinking so many tomorrows ahead with the goaltender shuffling. You look at the problems it's caused in Vegas on the outside, all of the noise. The noise does get to the players. So with the Islanders, what I did not like last night, I thought Greiss, they probably should have left him in there to the end of the first period, because Tampa was having their way. They were getting traffic. They were getting great point shots. They were getting around the goaltender. And, when Varlamov comes in, I don't like his body language at all. And I didn't like his effort late in the game. And I think that's where they really got to make sure who's ready as far as mentally in net. The Varlamov didn't look like he wanted to play last night. He did not look like he wanted to play. And I've seen that before when he was in Washington. And I believe I've seen it in Colorado. So they've got to make sure that they do a little bit of a lobotomy there to make sure that whoever's in net is in the right frame of mind.
I agree.
And it's got to be a total defensive. It's got to be all about the defense for the New York Islanders. And I'm saying not just a defenseman, a 5-man unit on the ice, keeping the puck to the perimeter, frustrating them, and then scoring when you have your odd man opportunity. And they've just got to slow the game down and not let Brayden Point look like he's the fastest player in hockey right now.
I saw Varlamov take a shot, go down, and I said to myself, oh no, he's not going to get up. He's gonna bail. He's gonna get out of here. That's the type of body language I think you're talking about. I think they got to go back to Greiss.
Yeah, well, that'll be the thing. Whoever goes in net, that their goaltending coach is there. Mitch Korn, the guru, is there, and they're going to have to talk to these players and see who's ready. And you know what, Mitch Korn has got a great feel for his goaltenders. He's an incredible communicator, and then. He and Trotz and, the entire coaching staff there will have to say who's in the right frame of mind to lead us there. Greiss is always a guy that surprises, never gets enough, I think, respect around the National Hockey League for what he's been able to do. He's been doing this for a while now and usually comes out looking pretty good. So they have to see, obviously, athletically, Varlamov is the more talented goaltender of the two. But if the brain's not right, you can't play. You can't play them. So that'll be the biggest thing, is seeing how the temperament of those goaltenders and how the attitude is. Do they feel that they can go out and win a game, but not just by themselves, but with the play of their team? Do they believe in their team? And it's the same thing. The team's got to look back and believe that the right goaltender's in net so they can play, close to a mistake-free game. And when there is a mistake, have that goaltender bail them out.
I don't think the rest benefited anybody more than it did Hedman and Ryan McDonough. And if those guys are feeling good, it's still bad news for the New York Islanders. And last night, I think, was a sign that this isn't just going to be a one-trick pony. And with Point producing all these points, they're going to have a very deep lineup here the rest of the series. I thought Hedman and McDonough were terrific.
Yeah, and what you look at Tampa, they've got one young defenseman, that's Mikhail Sergachev, and the rest of the guys are pushing 30 years old or in their 30s. So I think you definitely have to play a more physical game. And one of the things that, I just harken back to what Barry Trotz did with the Capitals the year they won the Cup. And, they had lost first games in the playoffs and they did not get rattled. And the whole world had sold them out that they were going to lose to Columbus and they were going to lose to Pittsburgh and Tampa. And they just kept finding ways to win. The game one that they lost in Las Vegas, 6-4. That you go out there. And one of the things, if you're going to put the puck below the goal line or it's deep in the zone of the Lightning, you don't go unless you're 100% absolutely certain that you can finish your check or you can get to the puck first. If not, back off, be a 5-man wall down, take away the middle of the ice, drive the puck to the outside, force Tampa to throw the puck in deep, break out on them, and just continue to do it and just play that cat and mouse type of game. To me, that's what the Islanders have to do. So You can punish their defensemen, but you can't go way out of your way to do it because they just pop the puck past you, race down the ice, and they put you in odd man situations. And that didn't look too good last night. So I think it's all about pucks deep, get above it, and just let the game come to you. And Barry Trotz loves to say, let the game come to you, and then play from the inside out. And if they can do that, they can keep these games closer than an 8-2 score that we saw last night.
Nick Kypreos here for Real Kyper at Noon. Joining me is Alan May from NBC Sports Washington. He's in for the vacationing Doug MacLean. We're going to get into a lot more with Alan as well, including head coach of the Washington Capitals. Babcock is the name that we've talked about here on the show for the last, couple of weeks. I also want to talk to Alan about all this talk about the Capitals partying like it's 1999 in the bubble. Of course, Mike Russo from The Athletic started that. We're going to get into that a little later on as well. And of course, all of you watching, keep the comments coming. We started a conversation with Alan about who would you have in the top three now with McDavid and McKinnon. Is it Brayden Point or is there others? And let's maybe focus on 25 and under. So who do we have? We got Austin Matthews out there. We got Barkov. We got Pasta in Boston. Not short. Barzal. He's taking his game to another level during these playoffs. Who do you like out there? Keep the comments coming, and maybe we'll get Jordan to read a couple before we sign off today. Alan, let's switch it over to the West in terms of what you saw out of Game 1 and the surprise out of maybe Dallas being able to shut down Vegas. While we saw Demko shut down Vegas's offense, we didn't see Vancouver really shut them down in any part of that series like we saw Dallas in Game 1.
Well, you look at the Dallas Stars. The last 2 years, they've been the second best defensive team in the National Hockey League statistically. And I look at their young defensemen that they have. I'll just say their top four defensemen. Maro Heiskanen, who I believe will be one of the best defenders in the National Hockey League for the next 15 years. That maybe the best skating defenseman in the entire league. Absolutely phenomenal. Plays great defensively and offensively, and he's been tearing it up. But what I see out of him is an ability to close out plays and to shut teams down. He can play against any type of player in the league. A big player, a heavy guy, the lightning fast guys. He's great stick to puck. Jonathan Klingberg has done a great job of minimizing his game and not just playing all-out offense. He's more positionally sound. Essa Lindell. You look at those guys. Jamie Alexiak's really stepped up in these playoffs and, became, he kind of has an identity now of what he needs to do. So I look at the Stars and they know that they have to be a team that can slow down and stumble Vegas and make sure that they're owning the blue lines, that pucks go in deep, that they force them to play in front of their own net, force them to play in their own zone below the goal line, and then keep them on the perimeter anytime they're in the Stars' end. So I look at Dallas. I love what they're doing as a team, and I believe defense wins. You have to play a responsible game. Where you throw your pucks when you have no play with the puck, where do you throw it? And Dallas seems to be throwing in the right places right now, and that's throwing it away from trouble rather than throwing it away in the middle of the ice and letting your team get caught in odd man situations. So when you look at that, I really respect and believe in what the Dallas Stars have done throughout these playoffs. Is they found a way to get their game going. Everyone's talking about where's Ben, where's Sagan, and all that. They're not providing points, but other players are stepping up. Joel Quavranta the other day in their Game 7. You have to have players step up. They've got a lot of big, young, fast players. Radek Faksa, Janmark, Rope Hintz. They play the game properly. And I think that's important that guys understand they've got to sacrifice points. They got to sacrifice their body into making the right plays and doing the right things defensively for what your team's game plan is.
Kiviranta on the loose does not sound as good as Druce on the loose.
Well, you know what? We'll see where he's at, but I'll tell you, what a great moment for that kid. And who would have ever thought, there would have been big money won if you would have put money on him just to score a goal that game.
Oh,
let himself, he snipes a hat trick. And, that's what I love about this game is that you can always have other players step up from nowhere. Someone's getting shut down, and that opens up opportunity on the ice for other players. And he made the most of his opportunity, and another great finish find by the Dallas Stars.
I don't understand though how you could have struggled all season putting the puck in the net when you mentioned the players on that blue line, especially Miro and Klingberg. To me, I admit I have not watched him as much as I've watched others, but he has taken his game to another level. I didn't know how tough he was. And we saw, I watched Kadri take runs at him in that last series that I thought he would have folded up his tent a long time ago. But this guy's proven to me he's a big-time player here. He's got size, he's got speed, he can get up and down the ice, and he's got a flair for putting the puck in the net too, with his game-winning goals. I watch those two guys right now, and I can't believe that they struggled putting the puck in the net all season long.
Well, when you're concentrating on the defensive side of the game, it's going to cost you offense, but you're not being careless. You're playing as a team and trying to do the right things at the right time. I look at Klingberg. I've watched him play his entire career. You know, I live in Dallas still, and when I get days off, I actually go to hockey games with my kids. And you know, he's one of those guys when you can't tell where he's going to shoot the puck or pass it when he's walking the line, whether it's 5-on-5 or the power play. And I know over the years covering the Caps, every time we're in Dallas or every time the Stars are, Klingberg is the guy that stands out, and he moves the biscuit around. You know, he's learned under this last, coaching staff, Jim Montgomery's part of that, Todd Nelson, Rick Bowness, what they've done the last couple of years, John Stevens, what they've done the last couple of years is taken some of the gunslinger out of his game, and they put him in spots where he understands the X's and O's and where to stand in the ice and be on the ice, and let less is more. And, as all defensemen get older, less is more. And you want to try to, fabricate your game to the way that Nicholas Lidstrom did, one of the most perfect players ever. He never got caught running around. He simplified his game. And if you ever wanted to get, teach a young player how to do things right, you get one game clip, one entire game of all the shifts of Nick Lidstrom and say, this is perfect simple. If you can find a way to perfect simple. And I think Klingberg is more on that way of trying to perfect simple now and keep his, because his offensive skills are elite, the shot's elite, the passing's elite, the puck handling with traffic, the zone exits, all those things. And then without the puck, just making sure you're in the right places at the right time. And he's really come along a lot in the last couple of years. I love his game.
Yeah, I do too.
Before I just saw the offensive side of it. Now we're starting to see him be in all the right places defensively.
We're also going to see Ryan Reeves back in the lineup after sitting out his one-game suspension here. Big difference between Reeves chasing down Quinn Hughes, who's probably a $155 soaking wet with his equipment on, and any of the Dallas Stars. Doug McLean talked about this yesterday. You're not intimidating Dallas like you did maybe Vancouver.
Well, and the other thing, Rick Bowness has been around. He's the oldest coach in the National Hockey League right now. He's been around forever. He was coaching when you and I were in the league. He was coaching against me in the American Hockey League when he first started back in the mid '80s. He's seen it all. And one of the things with Ryan Reeves, I said the last time I was on with you, is don't let him be a factor. Why should a fourth line right winger be the thing that's like the highlight? Like Sportsnet and NBC both made it like the game was about him when they were playing, and not taking shots at them, but Vancouver Canucks were so focused on him the very first game. He's making the chicken noises to Roussel, and I had said, just ignore the guy. Tell your play, I don't want you doing anything with him. Let him do whatever he wants. If he's coming to hit you, know where he's at in the ice, move the puck away, get out of the way. And if he's pushing and shoving after whistles, just laugh at him and skate away. Don't let him be a factor. And I think the Dallas Stars, with Rick Bowness's experience, they've got to tell their players the same thing. Big deal. Let Ryan Reeves do whatever he does. Let's get him in the penalty box. He's going to take penalties. And let's make sure that the refs, we talk to the refs about him at all times. If he's going, he's scrumming it up too much, if he's pushing and shoving, coming in late, you know what? Make him look bad. If you got to take a dive, take a dive. Embellish a little bit when he comes in on a late hit. So, you know what? You cannot let players like that be a factor when you're trying to win the Stanley Cup. The most important thing is getting the wins at the end of the games, not worrying about who wins the battle with Ryan Reeves.
And Ryan, there's nothing he can do in terms of helping his teammates put the puck in the net. And that's been an issue now for 4 games. They can't score, Alan. They cannot find a way, and it's not Demko anymore. It might be the fact that Dallas is this big, heavy team that take away the middle of the ice. But when you look at guys like Carlson and Stastny, and they can barely get a shot on goal each, you've got some issues here.
Well, you got to get off the laptop, and you've got to make sure that you're getting, bodies to the front of net. Sometimes it just goes back to the old-fashioned games. Vegas loves the shoot off the pass. They love their, odd man attacks. I think they have to go more where they're getting the puck from behind the goal line, doing the hard net wraps, and making sure they've got numbers near the front of the net. You've got to force it. And even, I would say, venture to say, when you can't get into the blue line clean, shoot the puck on net from a distance. Dump the puck at the goalie. Not necessarily trying to shoot the score. Shoot it at the goaltender where he's got to make a communication, maybe possibly makes a communication error with his defenseman as he makes eye contact after he takes a puck from a distance. And you have your wingers racing towards the front of net for the rebounds, the passes, the touches out, the helper plays out to his defenseman and put them in peril. You've got to get pucks into the hash marks. And if you don't do that, you're going to play on the perimeter and you're not going to score goals. Vegas is lightning fast, but if you stay in the middle of the ice, no one looks fast. And the Islanders slowed down everyone they played so far. When you look at their series, I think Vegas is playing a team like the Dallas Stars. It's trying to just stay in the middle of the ice like the St. Louis Blues did last year and keep you on the perimeter. But you've got to find a way to force pucks into the middle. You can't just look for the pass. The shot off the pass, that stuff's over the regular season. It's fine on a Tuesday night in November, but when we're getting here in the playoffs, you've got to make sure you get rubber at the net with bodies. And, ugly hockey, ugly goals, they win you a lot of games.
We mentioned Miro Heiskanen and Klingberg doing the job for Dallas. I watch now Shea Theodore. Got my Shays mixed up. And we talk about him now being a very good defenseman on the verge of being a great one, and one that maybe could even get looked at as a future Norris Trophy winner. Yet I watch him now, and I see a guy that might be pressing a lot more now, and I don't know if it's because there's lack of offense outside of him, and there's a lack of depth maybe that may still be the one thing missing from Vegas's lineup. And we know that they went after Carlson prior to San Jose, getting him out of the Ottawa Senators. But it just appears to me that there's that one missing guy. Is it Nate Schmidt? It's not Martinez. So who else is out there that could help Shea Theodore create?
Well, you look at one of the things. Vegas is playing with one right-handed defenseman, and Zach Whitecloud right now. And so when you go on the forecheck, you're trying to get players onto their backhand, force them to their backhand. You chase that right shoulder when they're going to the boards to always put them on the backside, so it limits their vision and moving the puck. So, I think they need to address the lefty-righty thing. You've got Martinez that's a lefty. You've got Brayden McNabb that's a lefty. Shea Theodore, Nate Schmidt, all lefties. Zach Whitecloud's the one right-handed guy. So you can get yourself out of trouble a lot when you can just pass to your partner's forehand and you know where it's at, and then you get a quicker exit out of that. But I love the game of Shea Theodore. He's a beautiful skater. The puck does get through to the front of the net when he moves it. He makes his passes. But right now, he is the man. He's the guy back there that they're focusing on. It's just like when you're playing the Tampa Bay Lightning, you've got to focus on Hedman. And there's a lot of focus right now on Shea Theodore. And Dallas it's about what they're doing without the puck first before they're worrying about what they do with the puck. And Vegas is a team that's all about what they're doing with the puck. Their focus is on a speed game and moving the pill around. And you don't ever hear anyone saying how great Vegas is defensively. Not that they're not, because their defense is by having the puck. So you're trying to get Shea Theodore to his backhand so he can't finish off plays. You're trying to finish his body below the goal line. And Dallas does have a lot of heavy players. So, it's just part of the learning curve. He's only 24, 25 years old. I cannot believe that Anaheim let him go the way they did in the expansion draft. Because when I was watching them play, I felt like he was their best defenseman. And even at a young age, I was in awe at where he was when he was playing with them. You could see that he was going to be a great player for a long, long time. And especially with the change in how the game is being played and penalties are being called, with obstruction, the stick penalties, they're actually called them way more than they ever have. and players like this that can wheel and deal with the puck, that can retrieve and do those things, because you can't cheat anymore with the stick. It just makes them so much more valuable. So I think it's more about a group effort back there and making sure you have, I still believe in the lefty righty thing. And a lot of people, they don't like that, but you look at it, lefty righty really does work. What Tampa Bay Lightning has done, they've got lefty righties. The Islanders have lefty righties. And I think it does help. Dallas Stars are doing it most games where they got, 3 pairs of lefty righties. The last has just been a couple, but I think it's an important thing and would help, them in all different areas all over the ice.
We know based on where they feel about their goaltending that Leonard will start in game 2. Are you okay so far the way it's worked out? Were you surprised to see Fleury start 1? Or is this all about protecting your number 1 goalie in Leonard getting ready for this series? And unfortunately, Fleury didn't get the support that he would have liked. He can't score. But is this playing out the way you thought it would be in terms of Peter DeBoer and his decisions?
Yeah, I would expect Robin Leonard to be in net. And, you look what he's done throughout these playoffs. He's at 3 shutouts. What he's done from the time he was traded from the Blackhawks, it's been a great fit for him with the Golden Knights. And unfortunately, you have a great goaltender and a guy that's still playing very good hockey, and Marc-Andre Fleury. But they lost last game. You can't blame it. It's a 1-0 loss. But at the same time, Robin Leonard's the guy that they've been getting the wins with. I know it opens up controversy for, talking heads, reporters, radio people, those that have their own shows. But the bottom line is you're trying to find ways to get wins. And Robin Leonard has been finding ways to get wins for them. And I think that's critically important. The 2-headed goalie monster is way better than the 3-headed goalie monster that we had here in Washington for a long time. But at the same time, you've got to go with what works. And right now, Robin Leonard has been working for them.
Okay, he's Alan May, and he covers the Washington Capitals, and he brought up just a good point in terms of Holtby in that situation. Before we get into that, Alan, can you update us a little bit on the Washington Capitals coaching search? We have heard the names, Peter Laviolette, Gerard Gallant, we understood went in for a Zoom meeting as well, or an interview. And as we reported last week, Babcock very much in the mix, including what I had heard, the possibility of Babcock even taking over as early as January or February was talked about. I don't know where it was contractually, but Babcock has been in the ear of the Washington Capitals for quite some time now.
Yeah, well, I hadn't heard any of that about January or February with Mike Babcock at all, but I have heard that, all 3 of the names that you mentioned have been interviewed. And I just think at some point, it all comes down to how much money you're willing to spend. And, Mike Babcock signed a 8-year, $60 million contract or thereabouts. And it was front loaded. And I'm not sure what Todd Reardon was making. I'd assume it was between $1.5 million and $2 million a season. And, now he's on the bench as an assistant coach in Pittsburgh. So I assume they take a third of that. Probably not a half, probably, somewhere in that area. So the Caps are paying a coach not to be their coach. And you take dollars, if Mike Babcock costs you $5.5 million a year for 3 years, that's a hefty raise. And, for the Caps, not for Babcock, but so, look at that. That's 5.5. I heard Peter Laviolette makes around $2.5 million. He's got a couple years left on his deal. Gerard Gallant, I don't know where he's at with the time left on his contract, but obviously money's going to come into play, and negotiations with former teams as to how much of the bill they would pick up if it is going to be those guys. And the one thing that we have heard around here is that they want to coach with experience and an older guy that the older players are going to respect. The style of hockey that both Babcock, I'm a big fan of the way his teams play. And I believe funneling pucks in net, a lot of net presence, hounding the puck all over the ice. And, I think in Toronto, he didn't have the defense that he needed to play his type of hockey. He certainly had all the forwards, but you look at that. Laviolette, tries to play a fast game. I didn't feel his teams were fast enough to play his style in Nashville the last few years. So it's a completely different, look for either of those guys. But I think having a voice like that, a guy that's been around, both those guys seem like they've been coaching forever. And I think that's important because Washington has never really done that until they went to Barry Trotz. And then they won a Stanley Cup, but unfortunately he wasn't here to carry on the next year.
And you know the season ticket holders are just pulling their hair out right now, Albie, that we had an experienced guy and he won a Stanley Cup. And now you're telling me you want one back again. Is it that simple to say, yeah, you were right, I'm sorry?
There's a lot more that goes into that. There was two, he did have an extension, automatically winning the Stanley Cup, and then he used the power that he had. The negotiating power is that he's a Stanley Cup winner, and he wanted the better contract, and they couldn't agree on what that was. I don't think it was just a cut and dry. No, we're not going to, it's either you play for the 1.75 or coach for the 1.75 a year. I believe that they went up in numbers, but he had a great offer from the New York Islanders. He took it, and he's turned that franchise around. But when you talk about the season ticket holders, really is important if you want the season ticket holders to come back, to have someone that they can believe in optically, in the media that's not going to be picked apart for who your choice is. And you look at it, there you can find detractors of Mike Babcock, but you can also say the guy's won a Stanley Cup. He's got an incredible win-loss record as a National Hockey League coach. Same with Peter Laviolette. He's got a lot of games under his belt. He's been to the finals 3 times. He's a Stanley Cup winner. The Capitals are closer to winning a cup than they are further from it. And you would think that, you need to take advantage of Ovechkin and Backstrom and how many more years of good hockey do they have left in them? John Carlson is 30 years old. How much more do you want to get out of those guys? And you want to squeeze it as best you can, like the Chicago Blackhawks and the LA Kings did for a while. So I think that's where it comes down to having a veteran coach is really, really important.
So let's start with this Mike Russo, in the Athletic, speaking of the Washington Capitals' behavior during the bubble or the 24-team tournament, because we include the games that weren't playoff games as well, and talked about they turned the bubble into a pool party or a vacation, and they didn't seem that interested, Alan, in playing hockey, that they were more interested in having a good time. Where does this all come into play in terms of wanting a coach now to send a message or be stern with the players?
Well,
is it all intertwined here? Because I look at that, I look at that article, and sometimes I feel like it was more of an opinion based instead of factual, which I look at like, are they really the only team partying, drinking in that bubble? Come on.
Well, I find it laughable, first of all, that someone would go out and say something like that without being able to substantiate it like themselves. And there's beer and wine and hard liquor, I'm sure, inside the bubble. And I've heard of coaches having beers and sitting with other coaches and slinging a few back. I don't think anyone is out of their mind partying inside the bubble. And if you have a picture of a player hoisting a beer, big deal. They do have off days. They had, some teams had 2 and 3 days between games. So I would think that the Washington Capitals, they didn't do well. And I would say it's not the fact that they didn't want to be there, that they wanted to be on an island partying somewhere. I think it is, I'm not surprised it happened in Toronto, came out in Toronto and things like this. The rumor, the gossip, the innuendo, I find it laughable because the Caps just didn't play well. They didn't have the right systems. They weren't penetrating the net. So when I look at that, did they look disinterested? Yeah. So has every team that's played the Islanders has looked bad at times. You look at what Trotz was able to do against Claude Giroux and Voracek and Couturier in that series. So I just go, the Capitals weren't set up to play well in this. I don't think it has anything whatsoever to do with hanging out at the pool. And I know that there were teams, I saw pictures of players right off the bat that were enjoying their time at the pool, and not like they were doing anything. They were just up on top of the roof. It's a weird time for hockey, and I think just all the gossip and things like this, I wouldn't even go there professionally. I wouldn't even bother with something like that.
I watched a Washington Capital team that had structure issues on the ice. They just did not look like, when you compared them to other teams, other coaches, they just didn't have the structure, and that fell on Reardon. But that structure off the ice that we're talking about now, I'm just wondering, would a guy like Ovechkin and Backstrom and Carlson now take that personally? That now you think I need uh, a guy that can hold my hand
I
or
don't.
a
I
guy
don't
that can
think.
kick my
Yeah,
ass,
I don't think
right?
it. What they need, they want a coach that comes in and has a system and plays and coaches to what the team that he has in front of him, that uses his experience to push players, and whether they're the older players or the younger players. And I think that discipline and making sure that you're not just letting someone, say Jacob Vrana, did not have a great playoff series whatsoever, not at all, and had a couple of breakaway opportunities, but other than that, he had a really tough playoffs. Well, he never was removed from the second line. So you want someone that's going to make tough decisions. And I'm sure that, players, you love each other. They've won a Stanley Cup together. There's a bond that those players that were there that they have that's incredible. And you were lucky enough to be on a Stanley Cup champ yourself. And that bond is unique and it is special. So when you look at all of that's going on, you want someone that holds players accountable. It's not like you hate Jacob Vrana because you just want him. Hey, do something about it. Force someone else. Put someone else in there so they can step up and find a chance to be Joel Carvanta, and one of those types of things, because it clearly wasn't going the way of Jake Vrana. And I'm not picking on him or saying anything. That I'm just saying that that's where the structure needs to be. That's what needs to be. You don't need players, someone to come in and tell you to stay out of the sun. You need a coach that comes in and knows how to read the roster and who's going and who's not going. When it's time to change a line, when it's time to set out a player, when it's time to just say, hey, you're not playing good enough for us. You look too banged up. John Carlson had a very tough playoffs. He was not healthy after he took that collision on the boards, couldn't turn, couldn't move. His mobility was there. And sometimes you have to sit a player like that just because he's not healthy enough to give you anywhere close to his best. And I just look at that. That's where a veteran coach who's been there, done that, and experienced a lot of different things comes into play.
And not just a head coach they're going to need a goaltender. Holtby is outpriced himself in Washington. And I'm sure there's a lot of sad people there because outside of Olaf Kolzig, there hasn't been a player more beloved.
No, you look at him, he's phenomenal and a great human, excellent in the community, phenomenal goaltender. And I don't think they can give him an 8-year contract. I don't think they want to give him a 7. And we're seeing, it's been a tough market for goaltenders after what went on with Bobrovsky in Florida. $10 million a year, had a tough year. Not saying it's all on him, but you don't want to put all your money in your net. And the Caps can't afford to do that. Ilya Samsonov looks like he's a good young goaltender. He's kind of followed the path of Vasilevsky as far as playing in the American Hockey League, finding his game, and then coming up. And he gave the team a lot of great looks this year. And so I'm not so sure I'm ready to just give him and hand him the net yet. I still think he needs a partner in there, but I don't think it's going to be Brayden Holtby, who may sign a 1-year deal somewhere and try to get to Seattle, or maybe he tries to do a long term. And
I think that would be.
I look after the success of Las Vegas. That players want to be on these expansion teams, and if he can control his own destiny and try to get to somewhere like that, and this is probably not the greatest year to be a goaltender. You got Markstrom, you have all the different names out there, even Thomas Greiss. You look at all the goaltenders that will be available throughout the National Hockey League. There's a surplus, and
we've never seen it before like this ever.
No, and that's why you cannot go spending too much money. And I think it's going to drive the market down as to what the players are earning, because you have a flat cap.
That's a big gamble, though. That's a big gamble for Holtby to go sign a 1-year deal.
It's also, what are they willing to give you? Because you want an 8-year, a 7-year, a 6-year, a 5-year. I think it's going to be hard for goaltenders to get anything over $6 million in the future, and in the immediate future. And I look at $6 million is going to be a lot of money with a flat cap. And there's different tenders out there. There's guys like Marc-Andre Fleury's owed a lot of money for 3 more years. Henrik Lundqvist, I believe, he's got 1 year left at about $8 million. So you've got to be very careful where you're spending your money, especially because the cap's not going up. And a lot of teams were assuming the cap would go up every year, and now it's not happening.
We look at that market now, and you just mentioned it. It's going to be flooded here. Does that make Doug Armstrong a very smart guy to look after an asset that he had in Jake Allen to Montreal? Is that just him jumping the gun early here? before he's lost in the shuffle?
Well, it's the big thing there is that he had to get money out the door in case they do, they can come to an agreement with Pietrangelo. And, he probably made the right decision at the right time. Binnington's the guy they won the cup with. It's a guy that they believe in who has a contract right now. And you will look for a support system because, if the season is condensed next year, we don't know how many games it will be, but it will be a condensed season. You're really going to need a 1-2. And, one goaltender is going to play 50% of the games. The other guy, not 50%. I got my numbers mixed up, but, like a 50-30 scenario in an 80-game season. So you look at that, and it's just a matter of making sure you have the other guys adequate and is going to come in there and fill a role. And once again, I think a lot of goaltenders are going to be taking a financial haircut. And the bottom line is you don't want to be the guy left standing without a team to play for, and you've got to sign the deals as they come to you.
If it is true that we see some teams with small windows left to win a Stanley Cup, and we'll put, say, Washington and Pittsburgh in that mix, right? Where you've got Ovi, you've got Sid, you got Malkin, you got Backstrom, and you think that you've got 1 or 2 more years left to take a healthy run at this. Yet both teams have question marks on who is going to be the goalie to take them there. I find that mind-boggling in today's game that you leave that position that open, that questionable. And we know in Washington, you've got the young prospect in Samsonov, correct? Do you assume that he is the goalie?
You have to. And, you have to give the reins to your goaltender at some point. And, I'm not so convinced you give him 60 to 70 games right off the bat because, younger goaltenders tend to beat up themselves. They go through rough patches. And I think it's, a combination of your entire team. And look what we saw in these playoffs, who ended up stepping up for teams. Yaroslav, Halak. And I don't think Hudobin gets enough credit for what he's been able to do. He's got an incredible attitude. He's played well for the Dallas Stars since he's been there. He played well for the Boston Bruins when he was there. And I just look at, you've just got to go out and find someone that you believe in that can be the other guy, that's not going to ruffle feathers, that's going to be a team guy. And I think a guy like Hudobin, I would love to have that guy on my team. Everything I've known and heard about him, that's the type of guy you want as your backup. And, a player that can step in and doesn't seem like he gets flustered. And that's critically important. You don't want to go in there with a goaltender that you don't have any confidence in. And so it's a matter, teams will have to step up early to identify who they want, make multiple offers to, different guys, and hopefully they get one of the players that they're looking at.
So that's our new NHL is that we're not going to see $8, $9, $10 million goaltenders. I don't think in the near future. We're going to see young, close to being starters like Samsonov in Washington, or even
I don't
or even
necessarily
Campbell.
buy that.
Toronto's got Jack Campbell that they traded from the LA Kings for. They like him a lot. So if you get rid of Frederik Andersen, then you're just going to bring in a Hudobin, a Cam Talbot, somebody like a 1B that you only have to spend $2.5-3 million on. And now you're under $5 million for your 2 goalies. That to me is the way it's going to go.
In the immediate future, yeah. And we'll see if it works, how well it works for teams. But once again, I think goaltenders are going to try to, close a contract as quick as they can. Not be greedy, just make sure you get something. And rather than the league minimum, because all of a sudden all the goaltending spots are taken and all teams have is the $750,000 to $1 million area. And I gladly take that money. But these goaltenders who are in a good position, they've got to find it while they can get the 2 to the 3s.
That to me is the telling tale here is how this thing it plays out. And if by chance Dallas is in a position to get to a final or close to a Stanley Cup or even win the damn thing, then we're going to see more of the Hudobins end up on teams and be in that position of not putting all your eggs in one basket, Alan, in a top priced goaltender.
Well, absolutely. And, it just makes financial sense. You look at salary caps have been around in the minor leagues for a long time. And so, some of the guys that were in those lower leagues where you had to deal with it, you realize you had to have your top line, your top pair D, and you needed the goaltender. But now with this, the new wrinkle is that it will be a condensed season next time the National Hockey League has a regular season, unless they forego the entire 2021 season. You're going to have a condensed season. So you're going to have to depend on both guys. And you're going to have to have, not a guess. You can't have a guess on who's going to be your other goaltender. You have to have a lot of belief in that you're going to have a good tandem. And I just don't think you're going to go spend, $15 million between two goaltenders on any team. And you're going to start looking around the $8 million mark to do this properly, because everyone's always got an RFA or a UFA they want to keep, and they're going to have to give a healthy raise to. And, the Capitals are in a situation too. Ovechkin will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the next season, and the max cap can only be 15%. So that's like a $12 million hit, somewhere thereabouts. So you have to take all of that into consideration looking ahead to the future.
You know that contract's already done and sitting in a desk, right? You know that, right?
I think it is. And I don't think it is.
You don't think it is?
No, I don't.
Oh, come on. You can't do what Ovechkin's done for that team and not have a backup plan here. Come on.
Well, it's, how long does he want? And you've got to make sure that you're not handcuffed forever. I love the guy. I wouldn't want to see him play in any other jersey, not a KHL jersey, not an NHL jersey. But at the same time, if he wants an 8-year deal, that's pretty tough to give it a max cap. So
he's not going to ask for that.
It's not settled.
It's Backstrom. It's Backstrom's term.
He had joked around before that, get Backstrom signed to a 5 and I'll sign a 4 when mine is done. But that might have changed now that the salary cap didn't go up, and he should be looking at a $15 million salary. So we'll see where that all goes. But I can't see him playing anywhere else.
I'll give you this, Alan May, that he is so powerful there. He can ask them to go back into the drawer, open it up, and rip it up, and then do another one. But this guy's in a great position. He's chasing down Gretzky for the all-time goal list. He apparently wants to do it. He's going to get that chance from the Washington Capitals. We know that. But regardless, I'm Nick Kypreos. He's Alan May. You're watching the Real Kyper at Noon show. Keep the comments coming. Before we go to Alan and just get his thoughts on tonight's game, why don't I bring in producer Jordan and talk about boosting up your odds on blitzbet.eu. Jordan, are we on the under on this?
So we're here, guys. We're here. So tonight we have 2 offers for you from Blitzbet.
Nice.
Excuse me. So we're going to go under on the game tonight at 5.5. So basically, it's supposed to go under 5.5. We're going to give you better odds in that situation. So check that out. That'll be coming within the next 20 minutes from Blitzbet. You can check it out on their Twitter, and we'll be retweeting that as well. And then also we are taking the Stars to win the money line. So that means, obviously, as our friend Joe said in our Betting 101 segments, money lines means there's no spreads. It's just straight up winning. So we're helping you win and win those monies, get your loonies going. It will be great. Kipper?
Now, hold on for a second. And I know it's Labor Day weekend is over, and which means it's kind of officially summer's over. But please, Jordan, tell me it didn't snow where you live.
Yeah, so I'm in the Denver suburbs right now, and it's been honestly like the movie 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow. On Sunday, it was 97 degrees, and there was ash and smoke raining from the sky. I had to clean out my outdoor cushions. There was literally ash on everywhere, gray, covering my whole entire yard. And then today I wake up with about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of snow on my driveway. So it's been an awful day. It's been awful. But other than that, I got to spend it with you great fellas. So it's been great.
That's depressing. Snow. And we're in Canada. And you're in Colorado.
Yeah, I'll get over it. I'm staying warm. I got a hoodie on. I'll be safe.
You're a skier too, aren't you? I
hope. A little bit. I try. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu, so in the winter I can't really risk getting injured and stuff, but I work on it.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. And Alan, do you also know that I'm giving away a Harley Davidson on my show? Did you know
I did not know. I did not know.
So
how do I get it?
Ally Afraidy to bid too. All you need to do is go to blitzbet.eu, and for your chance to win a Harley, place a bet on any NHL game for as little as $1. That's it.
Wow,
Val.
Kipper. So the boosts actually just came through. They're really really good today. So right now we could have the Golden Knights to win. Right. So this is a little bit of a different thing than we just talked about, but I don't know if
Okay.
they were just creative today or what. But right
What do you got
now
for us?
you could have the Golden Knights to win at plus 100. It was at minus 167. Now it's at plus 100. That's honestly like I think it's like 35 points of expected value or 35% of expected value. I'm not the best math guy, but that offer is almost too good to pass up. So
You're not going to get a better offer. You're not going to get a better offer, are you, Jordan?
It's literally impossible. I'm in the state of Colorado, like I mentioned, and this state just became legal to bet in the United States. So what these companies like BlitzBet, like DraftKings Sportsbook, all these regulated and safe books, they're really battling for your business right now. And I invite all of you to take advantage of those things. They're going to be giving you offers that just don't make sense. And when there's not sense over there, maybe you could make a couple of dollars in cents. I really do fundamentally say, not trying to sell, not trying to tell you to sign up at BlitzBet, but take advantage of those offers when you get them, because they might not come in the future.
Plus a chance to win a Harley Davidson. Did you ever ride Ally Frady's Harley when we all played in Washington together?
No, not a chance. Never.
He loved that thing. It would be like 40 degrees, and he would ride that thing in with his big leather jacket, and there would be like frost on his jacket from the ride on Highway 50 in from Annapolis.
Well, it's complete. You know what? The Harley guys, they ride anytime they can. So I was more of a Jeep guy back then. And I had my problems with motorcycles as a kid. So I put that part of my life away, and I didn't want to be part of Al's when it came to riding that thing.
And look, like you still got your great good looks because you got smart. How's that?
Oh, absolutely. There's not, you know what? It's after a while, you quit fighting, you quit riding motorcycles, you quit jumping out of airplanes, and you just sofa surf and watch hockey.
All right, Alan, why don't you give us a feel on what we can expect in Game 2 in the Western Conference Final? What do you think?
I think what we'll see is that Vegas will be pressing and trying to get to the front of the net, trying to get to Hudobin. And to me, it's going to be about Dallas, once again, realizing how important it is to play poke check hockey, to shovel the puck to the boards, to get it that last 5 feet out of the zone. And they're going to wait until Vegas presses too hard and find a way to convert on a 2 or 3-on-1 on a broken play. So to me, it's going to be Dallas will stick to the script of being all about 5-man defense first, protecting your goaltender. Then when you do falter, they're hoping and praying, as they've been throughout these playoffs, that Hudobin comes up and makes one miraculous save after another when he needs to.
I think Vegas is going to have a little bit more controversy or at least adversity tonight. I think Dallas can go up 2-0. I think there's a distinct possibility that could happen with the continuation of the shutdown, especially with a big, heavy team like Dallas.
Well, they certainly have the buy-in from all of their players right now. And you look, Jamie Benn, Sagan, they might not be putting, big numbers up on the board, but they are paying attention to defensive detail. The Dallas players look like they're in shape. No one's laboring. No one's struggling. Radulov is coming up with big goals and doing great things for them. And I just think that they've got a really good team feel right now. Don't forget, last year they lose that Game 7 to St. Louis. They were right there knocking on the door.
They were.
Learned some lessons that you've got to be all in every game, and everyone's got to do their part on both sides of the puck. So I'm still looking at Dallas at coming up and winning this next game.
Alan May, everybody from Washington. NBC Sports always does a fantastic job, not only covering the Washington Capitals, but the National Hockey League all across the board. And now a great regular contributor here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Alan, thanks for doing this. We certainly appreciate your time and your insight. Enjoy watching Game 2 tonight.
Yeah, take care, Kyper. Thanks for having me again.
Alan May, everybody, and all of you, once again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. We look at the comments. Love hearing some of your comments on who may be, in your eyes, knocking on the door for being one of the best players in the world. I saw the name Jack Eichel out there. Austin Matthews is right up there. Barkov, as soon as that team gets better, he might be amongst one of the best players in the world. Great conversations, great insight. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Doug MacLean back on Real Kyper at noon.